plenty of memories in this old thing. She's a 1976 LX Torana of the Holden variety. Back when I was younger, say in primary school, I used to read Street Machine magazine. I'm neither a Holden nor a Ford man. I'm an everything man. But I'd read the magazine and I would see cars like Fat 57, cars of that vintage. Heaps of cars I can't even remember off the top of my head. But you know it when you saw it that, those were cool machines. So it started from when I was young and progressed until I was about 16 or 17 when it was time to buy my first car. 16 years old, getting my L plates. And there was two cars that I was interested in. I was interested in a VH Commodore. I think it was 1981 or something like that. And I was also interested in a Torana. So my dad's, not a car guy. Nobody in my family is really a car guy. Perhaps maybe my grandpa. He had a few Buicks when he was younger. But for whatever reason, I was able to convince him that it'd be a good idea for me to buy a Torana. I originally wanted a project car, but thank God he convinced me otherwise. And we went for a trip down to see a bloke around Clayton area. The bloke was a mechanic. He was a retired mechanic, and he had this thing under a carport. So I don't know what the hell I was looking at. I was just so excited to see, a Torana. I think the asking price was about $6,500 or $7,000. We talked him down to 6,300. I don't know how my dad did it, but he had a way with words, and he basically said to the guy, well, my son's interested in it. I think 17 at the time. And he said, well, look, can you take it down to get a RACV check? And the guy actually agreed. I mean, in this day and age, $6,000, I'm not really sure that somebody would agree to get something like that done, but the guy did. He came back with a whole list of problems, and the guy that tested the car remarked that it drove like a boat. Yeah, okay, whatever. And then my dad basically shook his hand and said, look, a gentleman's agreement. My son wants to buy the car, so let's do that. Of course, I didn't even know how to drive. And my dad didn't really know how to drive manually. I think he had forgotten. So we actually made the bloke drive the car from Clayton to around, Wheelers Hill, Roval area. So he did. He drove this car. And my dad gave him a lift home. And I'll never forget, he was quite emotional when he left the car because he had owned it for a long time. He had taken care of it. He touched the car one last time, and then he said, goodbye, car. And that stuck with me. But I paid $6,300 of my hard-earned Safeway checkout chick money, or trolley boy money, where I was working at the time. I didn't even have enough to buy it, so I borrowed $1,000 off Dad, which I did pay back. And that was back in 2007. Didn't think much of it. I wasn't thinking of investing. Yeah. I'm like 17 years old. I just want a cool car, get some chicks. So from then on, I learned to drive the car. It was a 4-speed, Aussie 4-speed, red 202. It had a larger fan put on it. And when I used to rev it, it made a lot of noise. So I used to always think that the engine was on its way out or something. I really didn't know much. Like I said, my dad wasn't a mechanic, or he didn't know much about the mechanics of cars. So my education was slow, to say the least, on these engines and everything like that. So I mean, I didn't even know how to change a thermostat. Didn't know how to tune a carby. Didn't know anything about manifolds. Didn't know how to change the spark plugs. Could probably figure out how to change the oil. I used to leave the choke out a little bit to get some engine noise and make it sound a little bit tougher. I didn't like taking off from the lights because it was so slow. So I would try to brake as I was approaching and try to, time it so I could roll through and then get a bit of a head start. But those were the days, really driving a manual car and the 202, it was very reliable. I never really had any issues with it, except for one time the thermostat stuck and it overheated. And then I had to get a tow truck home because I didn't know what I was doing. But it was a really, really reliable car, and I've got fond memories. I was dating a girl at the time, and she didn't like the interior. It was old. It was a light sort of leather color with a cloth insert, and it was dirty. So the first thing I did with this car was, even before I changed the head unit and all that stuff, was actually got the interior redone by Terry's Motor Trimming. I said, well, I want a black interior. Can I redo the door trims and redo the seats? A black interior. Can I redo the door trims and redo the seats? I think he took pity on me because I think he only charged me about $1,500 to do the whole car. I got all my mates around. We changed the carpet from Knox Auto Carpets, gutted the car. I was too poor to afford Dynamat or anything like that, so I basically just put the new carpet down, and it's the carpet that I've got in the car now. Yeah, so the first thing I did was basically to keep a girl happy, and she sort of liked it after that. Not really. Yeah, so this was my daily driver, and I drove it to uni. Drove it every day. Yeah, it still has the hot wires, the original hot wires on it. I've never got around to changing it. But it was a lot of fun driving it to uni. I used to park it just at the underground car park and just leave it there. One time I had an exam, and this girl called me, and I was on my way to the exam, and she goes, "Oh, how'd you go? How'd you go? It was a pretty hard exam." And I've gone, "What are you talking about?" Like, well, I'm on my way. And she goes, "No, we just had it. Like, I didn't see you there. I was wondering where you were." And I've gone, "Oh, shit. I've missed my exam. I can't believe this. What am I going to do? I'm going to fail the subject. Blah, blah, blah." I'm driving this old thing. I can barely hear her in the car. Anyway, so I rock up to the car park, and it was in a weird area of the uni. So I could sort of see the building that I needed to be in. Anyway, so park this thing, and I go, well, there's only one thing to do. So I rush into the uni building, and then I find the receptionist, and I just go, "My car's broken down. I missed my exam. What do I do? Oh my God, blah, blah, blah." And she goes, "Oh, no, geez, that's not good. Well, you have to talk to the coordinator." "No, okay, whatever." So I go upstairs, I see the coordinator, and I say the same thing, but with a little bit more of a Oscar-worthy performance. "Oh, I've missed my exam. I can't believe it. I was driving my old car. I've got a Torana." And he goes, "Oh, do ya? Oh, geez, that's not good, blah, blah, blah." I say, "It's in the car park now. I couldn't get it started. There was issues with it. I've just made it here, and I realized that I've missed my exam." When in reality, I was just stupid and I missed my exam of my own fault. Anyway, so long story short, I was able to sit it. I passed with flying colours. I ended up getting my degree, which was great. But the funny thing is, that girl never said one word to me after that incident. I think she thought I was a dead shit, so she just avoided me. I literally said nothing else, and we were friends before that conversation. She didn't want to bar at me. I can't even remember. She just disappeared into oblivion, so, well, whatever. I only ever had one car, which was this car. I called her Betty. Some might say Ugly Betty because of the stripes. I'll be the first to admit I'm not great with colours myself. So I really just got used to seeing the car with stripes. The tags show that it's a colour called Orangeade. And, to my knowledge, there's not many cars that have that colour. But, it was a couple years later. I would like to say around 2013, 2014, where I started getting interested. So by then, I mean, I already had the car for like 6, 7 years, mostly garage. I was still living at home. I started getting itchy. So one fateful night with my girlfriend, which is now my wife, we were on the couch, and I don't know where my parents were. They were out or whatever, and I was half cut. I think we went out for the night, and I was sitting on the couch with my laptop open, and I had said to her, I said, "Oh, I'm thinking about putting a V8 into the car." I think I had always shied away from really doing up the car because I didn't know many people in the industry. Like I said, I wasn't very mechanical. I knew a bit by then, but by and large, I was still just, going out for Sunday cruises. The car was in good condition. There was no rust or anything, so I was enjoying the car. But I thought, well, I'd like to put a 308 in there in the Torana, just straight. You fit it in and go to Vic Roads. No engineering required. So I went on eBay. I had a bit of an idea of what sort of engine number I was looking for because I frequented the GMH Torana forums, and there's some pretty good threads. There's some pretty good blokes on there. If it's still going, I'm not quite sure. And I went on eBay and I found a Statesman motor. It was an 11 QT, sort of fit the bill. Red 308. Secondhand in good condition for about $1,700. Me being drunk, I clicked the purchase button, and before you know it, the bloke was contacting me about freight. I got it freighted to work, and that really kicked off the whole saga of me collecting cars, attempting to restore them, having fun with them, having way too many of them, and spending all of my money on cars. It was like an addiction. It was laying dormant, and it just suddenly came to life. It sprung to life. I'm sure many of you guys can attest to that. So I bought the motor, and then I approached Mike Steino, which was across the road from our work, and he said yes to building a motor. And then I literally just went on eBay and typed in LX Torana, and I searched through all the parts. It was fun. I don't know whether you guys have ever done this. I'm sure you have. You type in your car, either on Rare Spares or eBay, and you just look at all the parts and you think, oh, well, that's brand new, or maybe I can replace that part on my car. And then you add everything to your cart, and then you see the total amount. Then you go, well, okay, I'm going to remove this, remove that, blah, blah, blah. So I got the engine built, and I had a good mate that I knew. There was a guy at my high school. It was his older brother, and I'd seen him at the local Woolies a couple of times, and he always asked, oh, have you still got that Torana? I said yes, and he said, well, he's a panel beater. So I took him up on his offer to, move the Torana to his warehouse, his factory, and he would do some rust repairs. He would respray the engine bay with eventually respraying the whole body. So that kicked off a year-long process of, my best mate and I, we took out the 202 in a day. We weren't that careful with all the lines and hoses. We just took everything out. Then we put it on a tow truck and then delivered to my mate's factory. And, the more you dig, the more you find. So as soon as I took off the bonnet hinges, well, I could tell that behind it, that metal was rusted, so that needed to be cut out. I thought maybe it would just be sanding it back and then giving it a spray, but the more you dug, the more you found. So things that we replaced were the bonnet hinges behind it where the metal is. We replaced the battery tray, which is not uncommon. And we tried to do some factory welds. We were thinking about smoothing it over, but me being me, I just wanted it to be original. So then we did that, and then we found more rusts. We found a piece on the left-hand side, just where that meets the cowl. I always forget the name of that piece. and you can't buy it from Rare Spares, so we had to make it. We were drawing to a close with all the rust repairs, and then one night, I think it was a Saturday night, we both had a few drinks, and then we were like, oh well, let's go to the factory and dick around a little bit. Because by that stage, you become a very, very close mate of mine, and I enjoyed going to the factory and actually working with him, and that's how I learnt some things. Even the boring stuff, just sanding and the different types of sandpaper. Seeing him weld and create parts from scratch out of just sheet metal, and his attention to detail. He was a real magician when it comes to metalwork, you know, and painting and fabrication, everything. So we went there on a Saturday night, and there was tar sort of painted on to the lower radiator support panel. So I thought, oh, okay, I'll go grab the heat gun. By then I knew his factory inside out. Grab the heat gun, I'll get a scraper, scrape it off, and then, you know, we'll sand it back and she'll be right. So as I go to scrape it, it just left holes, and by the end of it, it looked like Swiss cheese. So then we had to cut that out and replace that piece as well. It was a Rare Spares part, which didn't fit. Okay. Nothing that we haven't seen before. And so a year passed, and I'm lucky enough to have a spray booth at work, so we took the car to work, and then we sprayed the engine bay with some body deadener on the inside of the guards. Put it into one of the factories, and I basically put it together. I've taken this car apart countless times now. I put it together in half a day, you know. Oh, well, before that, actually, I after it was painted, I gave it to my mechanic up the road, and he put in the engine. Yeah, he put in the engine, which took another couple of weeks, sort of thing. The engine is a 308. It's a 286 cam. The heads have been bored out. You know, it's a real 80s combo. It's got roller rockers. It's just got an Edelbrock intake manifold with a quadrajet carburetor. It's nothing that flash, really. And, you know, it's sort of what I wanted and what my budget permitted. Extractors, pacemaker extractors, and then, you know, it's not dumped at the diff, it goes all the way back. It's probably a little bit loud, I'm getting over it a little bit, but it is what it is. And the 286 cam, I don't have a choke anymore. The choke was removed, so it's pretty lumpy. I don't know, as I get older, I'm starting to become a little bit softer, and I'm only 30. I was thinking about maybe chucking on some EFI, like the sniper kit or whatever it's called, just so I could start it in the mornings, and maybe it doesn't run so rich, but I'm not sure. Maybe you guys can let me know what you guys think about 286 cams and what's the best combo for a 308 motor. Anyway, so I got it back in the factory, and I put it together in half a day. You know, got all the exhaust done. I drove it with just extractors on to the exhaust shop. As soon as I pulled out, I saw a copper. I just waved at him, and he just waved back, and it doesn't. I don't know. I sort of feel with the law now that, you know, now there's no more Holden and Ford. Anybody that's highway patrol probably has a bit of an interest in cars. As long as you're not doing burnouts or doing something stupid, they're going to let you go. So for me, it was excessive noise. And when I mean excessive noise, I mean like just extractors. I didn't even feel cool driving down the road because it was so loud. But anyway, I made it to the exhaust shop, which was, 10 k's away or whatever. Got the exhaust put on, and then it was time for rego. Let me tell you about Vic Roads. So I get the car ready and I drive to Vic Roads. I have an appointment and they're going to look at it over the pits because you've changed the engine. I get a lovely young lady, bless her heart, and she didn't really know what she was looking at. She saw that it was orange and she saw that it was old. Okay. So I said, as pleasantly as I could, I said, I've changed it from a 6-cylinder to a V8. It came out with this V8, so it's a straight swap. There's nothing that's untoward. She didn't get me to start the engine. I already showed her where the engine number is and all the tags. All the tags are on the car. So she goes on her computer, and number one, it's not coming up with anything. It's not coming up with a Holden Torana. I thought, well, that's a bit strange. And then she can't find the engine that I've put in the car, which is a red 308. There's nothing on her system that tells her what to do, because I think she's a bit of a freshman. I'm getting a little bit concerned because I'm thinking, well, what's going to happen? Anyway, what I do is I pull out my mobile phone and I pull up Wikipedia, and I show her, I go, oh yeah, so this is the car, and it comes out with a 202 or it comes out with the 308. She's looking, she's unsure, and she goes, just hold on a second, let me go speak to my supervisor. She comes back in 5 minutes and she goes, can you send me that Wikipedia page to my email at Vic Roads? I thought, okay, well, maybe she's going to show somebody else. So I sent it to her, and then she prints it out. And then she gets my application form and she staples the Wikipedia page to my application form. So somewhere in the vault of Vic Roads of the paperwork of my car is a Wikipedia page specifying that it's moved from a 202 to a 308. And that's all she needed as the proof, because she couldn't find anything on their computer system. So go figure. So I thought that was pretty funny. But after that, I hadn't had a drama. And ever since then, I've owned the car for now, how long? I'm not sure. Let me figure it out. Yeah, you won't believe it. I've owned this car for 14 years. 14 years. It's my first car. Oh. What about you guys? Does anybody still own their first car? Do you know where your first car is? Truth be told, I don't even really know why I've still got my first car. I never thought about selling it. I just, it's one of those things that it never was a large amount of money. So I never went looking for the money by selling the car. It was $6,000, started creeping at 8 or 10. It never crossed my mind to sell the car. Now Toranas could be worth 40 or 50 grand. But because it's been with me for so long, I just wouldn't, because then I'd miss it. It'd be like a part of me that's gone. And I don't know whether you guys feel like that about some of your cars, but when they've been around for so long, you just can't do it. And I know I can't. So I think this thing's going to be here with me for life. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I hope that gives you a bit of history of the old girl. It's been a good ride. And hopefully we'll be making many more memories to come.